Welcome to 100 Facts About Haunted Places. In this video, we'll explore chilling stories, mysterious sightings, and eerie legends from some of the world's most haunted locations. From abandoned castles and forests to old ships and asylums, each fact reveals history, environment, and psychology behind the paranormal. Prepare for an unforgettable journey into the unknown. Chapter 1. The Tower of London has a chilling history dating back over 900 years. Prisoners whispered secrets in the dark, and some claim to still see Anne Boleyn wandering the halls, carrying her head. Scientists suggest fear and expectation heighten our perception of cold spots and strange noises, making these hauntings feel real to visitors even today. Chapter 2. Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia once revolutionized prison design, emphasizing solitary confinement. Inmates reported hearing ghostly footsteps echoing in empty halls. Psychologists explain isolation can imprint trauma on the mind, and these collective stories amplify the eerie reputation, leaving visitors to feel the shadows of past prisoners. Chapter 3. The ancient Ram Inn in Gloucestershire is said to be one of England's most haunted buildings. Legends speak of witches, sacrifices, and restless spirits. Some visitors detect sudden drops in temperature, which scientists link to airflow patterns, yet our brains interpret these cold patches as paranormal presences, keeping the legend alive. Chapter 4. Bangar Fort in India forbids entry after sunset. Locals believe a curse haunts its ruins. Tourists report hearing whispers or seeing fleeting shadows. Biologists note that nocturnal animals and natural wind movements in ruins can produce unexplained sounds, which the human brain sometimes interprets as eerie or ghostly. Chapter 5. The Stanley Hotel in Colorado inspired Stephen King's The Shining. Guests tell stories of doors opening on their own and music echoing through empty halls. Environmental scientists suggest that temperature fluctuations and building acoustics may explain some of these strange sounds, yet the atmosphere fuels imagination and fear perfectly. Chapter 6. Poveglia Island in Italy was once a quarantine zone for plague victims. Rumors tell of tortured spirits wandering the abandoned buildings. Historians record the island's tragic history, and researchers note that even subtle visual cues in decaying structures can trigger the brain's fear response, amplifying ghost stories. Chapter 7. The Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana is said to have at least 12 spirits lingering on the grounds. Guests report seeing apparitions and hearing unexplained footsteps. Psychologists explain that high stress or emotionally charged environments can heighten our senses, causing ordinary sounds and shadows to feel supernatural. Chapter 8. Edinburgh Castle hosts tales of phantom pipers and headless drummers. Visitors often feel sudden chills. Studies on human perception show that low-frequency sounds, called infrasound, can create feelings of unease and even visual hallucinations, potentially explaining some of the castle's ghostly legends. Chapter 9. Aokigahara Forest in Japan, also known as the Suicide Forest, carries a dark reputation. Hikers report hearing whispers or sensing unseen presences. Environmental scientists highlight how dense foliage and natural echoes can distort sound and perception, yet the forest's history adds a psychological layer that deepens the feeling of dread. Chapter 10. The Queen Mary ship in California is home to numerous ghost stories. Crew members claim to see shadows in cabins and hear doors slam without reason. Acoustic studies suggest that metal corridors can carry sounds in strange ways, making ordinary noises appear supernatural, while the ship's tragic history adds weight to every eerie encounter. Chapter 11. Leap Castle in Ireland is infamous for violent history and ghost sightings. Visitors speak of a bloody chapel where spirits allegedly linger. Archaeologists note hidden chambers and unique architecture can create echoes and shadows, and our brains often link these sensory cues to fear, feeding tales of restless souls wandering ancient stone walls. Chapter 12. The Whaley House in San Diego stands on former gallows grounds. Sightings of phantoms in period clothing are common. Historians explain that living memory, tragic deaths, and layered history make the mind more prone to perceive familiar shapes and voices, giving rise to seemingly supernatural experiences in an otherwise normal house. Chapter 13. Château de Brissac in France is home to the Green Lady. Guests report glimpses of a woman in green gliding through halls. Experts on perception suggest that dim lighting, reflections, and patterned walls can trick the eyes, while legends of murder enhance expectation, creating experiences that feel undeniably ghostly to visitors. Chapter 14. The Lizzie Borden House in Massachusetts is tied to gruesome history. Visitors report unexplained cold spots and sudden noises. Thermography studies suggest that drafts and old plumbing can create temperature anomalies, which the mind interprets as paranormal activity, blending historical facts with sensory triggers into vivid, haunting stories. Chapter 15. Hauska Castle in the Czech Republic was built over a supposed gateway to hell. Locals recount eerie sounds and shadowy figures. Geologists explain that hollow rock formations and underground passages can amplify noises naturally, while human imagination interprets them as supernatural, intertwining architecture, history, and psychology in a haunting mix. Chapter 16. The Banff Springs Hotel in Canada reports ghostly sightings of brides and bellhops. Historical tragedies and accidents contribute to its haunted reputation. Environmental psychology notes that old hotels with narrow corridors and creaky floors can create sensations of being watched, feeding ghost stories, and elevating the hotel's eerie atmosphere. Chapter 17. Changi Hospital in Singapore is abandoned yet feared. Visitors report apparitions and screams. Structural scientists point out that abandoned buildings produce strange echoes and drafts, and visual decay heightens fear. Coupled with dark stories, these conditions make the mind more likely to detect shapes and sounds as paranormal entities. Chapter 18. The ancient city of Pompeii carries stories of restless spirits. Ash preserved the city, but local legends speak of wandering phantoms. Archaeologists explain that shadows cast by ruins and natural wind sounds can play tricks on perception, while human fascination with tragic history enhances the sense of encountering the supernatural. Chapter 19. Monte Cristo Homestead in Australia is known as the country's most haunted house. Guests report objects moving and spectral figures. Physicists note that uneven floors and old structures can make vibrations cause objects to shift, and combined with stories of past deaths, ordinary physics can feel like ghostly activity to the mind. Chapter 20. The Ridges in Ohio, a former asylum, has chilling reports of ghost sightings. Visitors feel sudden temperature drops and hear whispers. Psychologists suggest that dim lighting, narrow hallways, and the brain's sensitivity to fear cues can make ordinary sounds and movements seem paranormal, making the asylum's reputation feel eerily real. Chapter 21. The Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia hosts stories of ghostly prisoners packing empty cells. Visitors report hearing distant footsteps and moans. Scientists studying sound in narrow corridors note that echoes can amplify even small noises, and combined with the prison's grim history, the mind often interprets them as spectral activity, keeping the haunted legend alive. Chapter 22. Humberstone and Santa Laura in Chile are abandoned saltpeter towns. Locals speak of wandering apparitions and ghostly voices. Desert winds create shifting sands and eerie sounds, which the human brain can misinterpret as whispers. Historians add that tragic mining accidents shape collective memory, reinforcing the feeling of lingering spirits in the empty town. Chapter 23. Chillingham Castle in England is home to blue and white ghosts, according to visitors. Soldiers from past centuries are said to roam the halls. Architects explain that old stone structures naturally trap sounds and create cold spots, while visitors' expectations of ghosts heighten perception, blending physics and psychology into convincing paranormal experiences. Chapter 24. Hoya Forest in Romania is called the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. People report missing time, strange lights, and shadows. Scientists studying magnetism note unusual iron deposits can interfere with electronics and perception, and dense vegetation can distort light and sound, making this forest one of the most psychologically eerie locations on Earth. Chapter 25. The Amityville house in New York became infamous after reported hauntings in 1975. Residents described voices, cold drafts, and moving objects. Psychologists suggest that fear, media influence, and prior knowledge can trigger the brain to perceive ordinary events as supernatural, illustrating how historical context can amplify paranormal legends in a household. Chapter 26. Dragsholm Castle in Denmark houses stories of imprisoned ghosts. Nobles and servants allegedly linger. Cold corridors and stone walls create drafts and echoes. Cognitive science explains that people are more likely to perceive anomalies in sensory input when aware of tragic history, making the combination of architecture and story a perfect setting for ghostly legends. Chapter 27. Helltown in Ohio, an abandoned town, is shrouded in urban legend. Visitors report seeing shadow figures and hearing unexplained noises. Biologists note that overgrown vegetation and wildlife activity can produce sudden movements and sounds, which the mind interprets as paranormal, especially when combined with dark stories and fear-driven expectations. Chapter 28. The ancient Ram Inn in England features tales of witchcraft and ghostly sightings. Floors creak, shadows appear, and cold drafts linger. Environmental scientists suggest that old timber, wind currents, and uneven floors produce sensations of movement and cold, while human imagination weaves these cues into terrifying experiences of spirits. Chapter 29. Kowloon walled city in Hong Kong was densely populated and abandoned in 1993. Stories tell of shadowy figures in its labyrinthine alleys. Architects explain that narrow corridors, poor lighting, and uneven acoustics create distorted sounds and movement, which residents' imaginations transformed into legendary hauntings in this uniquely chaotic environment. Chapter 30. The Monte Cristo homestead in New South Wales is said to hold the spirits of past residents. Guests report furniture shifting and whispers in empty rooms. Structural quirks, such as creaky floors and uneven foundations, combined with tragic history, make ordinary events appear supernatural, showing how physics and psychology together fuel ghost stories. Chapter 31. Barry Pomeroy Castle in England is famous for the White Lady. Visitors report sightings of a pale figure gliding through ruins. Archaeologists note the castle's uneven floors and crumbling walls produce strange shadows and noises. Combined with tragic historical events, these environmental cues heighten fear, making ghostly encounters feel real to those exploring the old castle. Chapter 32. The Paris catacombs hold millions of human bones beneath the city. Visitors describe hearing whispers or feeling watched. Scientists explain that the acoustics in narrow tunnels can amplify small sounds, and low light creates illusions. The combination of history, darkness, and human perception transforms a scientific phenomenon into chilling supernatural experiences. Chapter 33. Aokigahara Forest in Japan has earned the nickname Sea of Trees and carries tragic stories. Hikers speak of strange lights and whispers. Geologists note lava rock formations can create magnetic anomalies, affecting compasses and perception. Dense vegetation and echoes enhance fear, showing how natural elements and history combine to fuel haunting legends. Chapter 34. Leap Castle in Ireland holds violent history and spectral sightings. Visitors report shadowy figures in the Bloody Chapel. Experts suggest hidden chambers, stone corridors, and poor lighting create optical illusions and strange sounds. Historical violence combined with environmental triggers explains why many perceive ghostly presences in this ancient, foreboding castle. Chapter 35. The Queen Mary ship in California has numerous ghost tales, from apparitions in cabins to strange noises on deck. Metal construction and narrow corridors amplify sounds, while temperature variations create cold spots. Maritime history and tragic accidents add context, blending physics, history, and psychology into a compelling haunted narrative for guests. Chapter 36. Bangar Fort in India forbids night entry due to a famous curse. Tourists describe sudden chills and whispers. Archaeologists note wind patterns and stone architecture create eerie sounds, while locals' stories heighten expectation. This combination of natural phenomena and legend produces experiences visitors interpret as paranormal activity in the ancient fort. Chapter 37. The Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana claims at least a dozen spirits roam its grounds. Guests report apparitions and footsteps in empty rooms. Psychologists explain that tension, dim lighting, and creaking floors heighten awareness of sensory anomalies. When combined with violent history, these ordinary cues feel terrifyingly supernatural to visitors exploring the plantation. Chapter 38. Edinburgh Castle hosts tales of phantom pipers and headless drummers. Sudden cold spots and strange noises are reported. Acoustic science notes that infrasound and stone corridors can produce discomfort and hallucinations. Visitors' expectations, fueled by centuries of history, make these subtle phenomena feel convincingly ghostly. Chapter 39. Changi Hospital in Singapore is abandoned yet feared. Visitors describe apparitions, screams, and sudden drops in temperature. Structural scientists explain that open windows, drafts, and echoes in old buildings create unusual sensory experiences. Coupled with the hospital's dark past, these natural conditions foster haunting stories that feel remarkably real. Chapter 40. The Ridges in Ohio, a former asylum, is known for ghost sightings. Visitors hear whispers and sense unseen presences. Low lighting, narrow hallways, and dilapidated conditions enhance the brain's fear response. Even minor noises or movements become interpreted as paranormal, showing how environmental factors and psychological expectation combine to create a haunted reputation. Chapter 41. Humberstone and Santa Laura in Chile, abandoned mining towns, hold eerie tales of ghostly workers. Visitors hear footsteps and whispers among crumbling buildings. Scientists explain that wind through empty corridors produces strange noises, while sunlight filtering through broken walls casts fleeting shadows. Combined with tragic history, these simple natural effects are interpreted as paranormal encounters. Chapter 42. Chillingham Castle in England reports sightings of blue and white ghosts. Soldiers from centuries past supposedly patrol the halls. Experts note that stone walls amplify noises and create sudden cold spots. Visitors' anticipation of ghosts intensifies perception, blending physics, architecture, and human psychology into chilling experiences that seem undeniably real. Chapter 43. Hoya Forest in Romania is infamous for unexplained phenomena. People report strange lights, missing time, and shadowy figures. Geologists suggest magnetic anomalies in the area may affect perception, while dense trees distort sound and light. Human imagination, combined with environmental factors, transforms these natural occurrences into terrifying ghost stories that persist over generations. Chapter 44. The Amityville house in New York gained notoriety after reported hauntings in 1975. Voices, slamming doors, and moving objects were claimed by residents. Psychologists explain that fear, prior knowledge, and media exposure can make ordinary household events seem supernatural. History, perception, and expectation mix to create one of the most famous haunted homes in the world. Chapter 45. Dragsholm Castle in Denmark holds stories of imprisoned spirits of nobles and servants. Guests report cold drafts and ghostly apparitions. Stone walls and narrow hallways naturally produce temperature changes and echoes. Combined with the castle's tragic history, these physical factors amplify fear, creating experiences that visitors interpret as real paranormal activity. Chapter 46. Helltown, Ohio, an abandoned town, carries urban legends of ghosts and shadowy figures. Overgrown vegetation and wildlife create sudden movements and noises. Psychologists note that abandoned, unfamiliar environments heighten alertness, causing the brain to interpret these sensory cues as supernatural. Fear and imagination turn ordinary events into chilling, haunted stories. Chapter 47. The ancient ram Inn in England is tied to witchcraft and ghost sightings. Visitors report cold spots, creaking floors, and fleeting shadows. Environmental scientists explain that old timber, drafts, and uneven floors create sensations of movement and temperature shifts. Human perception, influenced by legend, transforms these natural phenomena into eerie, ghostly experiences. Chapter 48. Kowloon Walled City in Hong Kong, densely populated and now demolished, was known for shadowy figures in its maze-like alleys. Poor lighting, narrow corridors, and irregular construction caused strange acoustics and visual distortions. Residents' fear and imagination combined with these environmental factors, creating stories of hauntings that became legendary over time. Chapter 49. The Monte Cristo homestead in Australia reports moving objects, whispers, and shadowy figures. Uneven floors, creaky structures, and old foundations create vibrations and noises. Psychological research shows that tragedy and prior expectations make ordinary phenomena feel supernatural. Architecture, history, and human perception merge to sustain the homestead's reputation as the most haunted house in the country. Chapter 50. Barry Pomeroy Castle in England features the famous White Lady. Guests report sudden cold spots and glimpses of a pale figure. Crumbling walls, uneven floors, and dim light naturally create shadows and optical illusions. Combined with historical records of tragedy and murder, these environmental factors influence perception, turning natural effects into convincing ghostly experiences. Chapter 51. The Paris catacombs hold millions of human bones beneath the city streets. Visitors often report whispers and sudden chills. Scientists explain that narrow tunnels amplify sound, while low lighting creates shifting shadows. When combined with the macabre history, human perception interprets these cues as paranormal activity, making the catacombs one of the most unsettling haunted sites in the world. Chapter 52. Aokigahara Forest in Japan, called the Sea of Trees, is notorious for its tragic history. Hikers report fleeting figures and strange noises. Magnetic anomalies caused by volcanic rock can subtly affect perception, while dense trees distort sound and light. Environmental factors and human psychology merge to create a powerful sense of fear and unexplained phenomena. Chapter 53. Leap Castle in Ireland has a dark history of violence and imprisonment. Visitors report shadowy figures and eerie sounds in the bloody chapel. Hidden chambers and stone corridors naturally create echoes and drafts. Combined with knowledge of past events, these sensory cues are interpreted as supernatural, illustrating how history and environment shape haunting legends. Chapter 54. The Queen Mary ship in California is known for ghost sightings in cabins and on deck. Metal construction and narrow corridors amplify noises, while temperature changes create cold spots. Maritime tragedies and history enhance visitors' expectations, making ordinary phenomena feel paranormal and solidifying the ship's reputation as one of the most haunted vessels in the world. Chapter 55. Bangar Fort in India forbids visitors after dark due to an alleged curse. Sightings of shadows and whispers are common. Natural wind through the fort's ruins produces strange sounds, while stone walls create cold drafts. Combined with stories of a curse, these natural phenomena are interpreted as ghostly activity, cementing Bangar's eerie reputation. Chapter 56. The Myrtles plantation in Louisiana claims at least a dozen spirits haunt the property. Guests report apparitions and footsteps in empty rooms. Psychologists note that heightened tension, creaking floors, and dim lighting increase awareness of sensory anomalies. When paired with the plantation's violent history, ordinary cues become perceived as paranormal, creating a compelling haunted experience. Chapter 57. Edinburgh Castle in Scotland hosts phantom pipers and headless drummers. Visitors report sudden cold spots and strange noises. Infrasound, low-frequency vibrations, can create unease and hallucinations. Combined with the castle's rich historical narrative, these subtle environmental factors are perceived as supernatural, blending science, history, and perception into chilling ghost stories. Chapter 58. Changi Hospital in Singapore is an abandoned building feared for ghost sightings. Visitors describe apparitions, screams, and sudden chills. Drafts, open windows, and echoes in old structures can distort perception. The hospital's dark past amplifies the psychological impact, creating experiences interpreted as paranormal despite natural explanations for the unusual sounds and sensations. Chapter 59. The Ridges in Ohio, formerly an asylum, is famous for ghost sightings. Narrow hallways, low lighting, and decaying walls amplify ordinary noises, producing sudden cold drafts. Visitors' minds, primed by the building's history, interpret these sensory cues as ghosts. Environmental and psychological factors combine to make this abandoned asylum feel terrifyingly haunted. Chapter 60. Humberstone and Santa Laura in Chile, deserted mining towns, are known for ghost stories. Shifting sands, wind through empty buildings, and sunlight filtering through ruins create strange visual and auditory effects. When combined with tragic history, visitors interpret these natural occurrences as paranormal, making the towns eerie and reinforcing tales of wandering spirits among the ruins. Chapter 61. Chillingham Castle in England is said to host blue and white ghosts. Soldiers of past centuries are reported roaming the halls. Stone walls amplify sounds and create cold spots. Visitors' expectations, influenced by tragic history, heighten perception, turning natural environmental effects into seemingly supernatural experiences, blending architecture, psychology, and history into chilling encounters. Chapter 62. Hoya Forest in Romania is infamous for strange lights and shadows. People report missing time and sudden chills. Scientists note magnetic anomalies and dense vegetation can distort perception. The forest's eerie reputation amplifies fear, showing how environmental factors and psychological suggestion combine to create experiences interpreted as ghostly activity. Chapter 63. The Amityville house in New York is legendary for hauntings reported in 1975. Doors slammed, objects moved, and voices were heard. Psychologists explain that fear, prior knowledge, and media coverage can lead residents to interpret ordinary events as paranormal. Historical context, expectation, and perception together reinforce the house's reputation as a haunted site. Chapter 64. Dragsholm Castle in Denmark houses tales of imprisoned spirits. Guests report cold drafts and spectral sightings. Stone walls and narrow corridors create natural echoes and temperature changes. Combined with historical tragedies, these physical factors enhance fear, making ordinary environmental phenomena seem supernatural to visitors exploring the castle. Chapter 65. Helltown in Ohio is abandoned yet infamous for ghostly legends. Overgrown vegetation and wildlife create noises and sudden movements. Psychologists note unfamiliar and abandoned environments heighten alertness, causing the mind to interpret these cues as paranormal. Fear and imagination transform simple natural phenomena into chilling ghost stories, sustaining the town's haunted reputation. Chapter 66. The ancient ram in England is linked to witchcraft and ghost sightings. Guests report cold spots, fleeting shadows, and creaking floors. Old timber, drafts, and uneven floors naturally create sensations of movement and temperature change. Combined with legends and tragic history, these cues are perceived as supernatural, making the inn one of England's most haunted buildings. Chapter 67. Kowloon walled city in Hong Kong was densely populated with narrow corridors and dim lighting. Residents reported shadowy figures and strange noises. Architects note that the maze-like structure created unusual acoustics and optical distortions. Fear and imagination amplified ordinary effects, creating legendary stories of hauntings that persisted even after the city's demolition. Chapter 68. The Monte Cristo homestead in Australia reports moving objects and whispers. Uneven floors and old structural foundations create vibrations and noises. Psychological studies show that past tragedies and expectation influence perception. Visitors interpret ordinary structural effects as paranormal, illustrating how architecture, history, and human cognition combine to produce a truly haunted experience. Chapter 69. Barry Pomeroy Castle in England is haunted by the White Lady. Guests report sudden chills and glimpses of a pale figure. Crumbling walls, dim light, and uneven floors create shadows and illusions. Historical events of tragedy and murder enhance fear, turning natural environmental effects into convincing supernatural experiences that continue to attract thrill seekers and historians alike. Chapter 70. The Paris catacombs hold millions of bones beneath the streets. Visitors hear whispers and footsteps in the dark tunnels. Acoustics amplify sounds, while low lighting creates shifting shadows. Combined with centuries of macabre history, these effects are interpreted as paranormal. The catacombs remain a chilling blend of natural science and human imagination, reinforcing its haunted reputation. Chapter 71. Aokigahara Forest in Japan, known as the Sea of Trees, is infamous for tragic events. Visitors report shadows, whispers, and strange sensations. Magnetic anomalies from volcanic rock can affect perception, while dense vegetation distorts sound and light. Combined with history, these natural factors create a sense of dread, turning ordinary environmental cues into ghostly experiences. Chapter 72. Leap Castle in Ireland is haunted by past violence. Guests see shadowy figures in the bloody chapel and hear unexplained noises. Hidden chambers and stone corridors create echoes and cold drafts. Knowledge of the castle's history amplifies fear, making natural phenomena appear supernatural and sustaining centuries-old tales of restless spirits. Chapter 73. The Queen Mary ship in California has reported ghost sightings throughout its cabins and decks. Metal construction and narrow hallways amplify noises, while temperature changes produce cold spots. Maritime tragedies, combined with human expectation, make ordinary sounds and drafts feel paranormal, establishing the ship as one of the most famous haunted vessels in the world. Chapter 74. Bangar Fort in India forbids nighttime visits due to alleged curses. Tourists report shadows and whispers. Wind passing through the ruins produces eerie sounds, and stone walls create temperature fluctuations. These natural phenomena, combined with the fort's dark legends, are interpreted as supernatural activity, reinforcing Bangar's reputation as a chillingly haunted location. Chapter 75. The Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana claims at least 12 spirits roam its grounds. Guests report footsteps, apparitions, and cold drafts. Psychologists note that tension, dim lighting, and creaky floors heighten awareness of environmental anomalies. When paired with the plantation's violent history, ordinary events are interpreted as paranormal, creating a compelling haunted experience. Chapter 76. Edinburgh Castle hosts phantom pipers and headless drummers. Sudden chills and mysterious noises are reported. Infrasound, low-frequency vibrations, can cause unease and hallucinations. Combined with centuries of history and tragic events, visitors' perceptions of these subtle environmental cues are interpreted as ghostly phenomena, blending science and legend into chilling experiences. Chapter 77. Changi Hospital in Singapore, abandoned and feared, has reports of apparitions and screams. Drafts, open windows, and echoes in old structures create unusual sensory effects. The hospital's dark history amplifies fear, causing visitors to perceive natural phenomena as paranormal, illustrating how environmental conditions and psychology combine to produce convincing haunting experiences. Chapter 78. The Ridges in Ohio, a former asylum, is known for ghost sightings. Narrow hallways, low light, and decaying walls amplify sounds and create sudden cold drafts. Visitors' awareness of the asylum's dark history primes the mind to interpret ordinary sensory cues as paranormal. Environmental and psychological factors converge, making the asylum a frighteningly haunted location. Chapter 79. Humberstone and Santa Laura, abandoned Chilean mining towns, are filled with ghost stories. Wind, shifting sands, and sunlight through ruined buildings produce strange sounds and shadows. When paired with tragic mining history, visitors interpret these effects as paranormal. Environmental conditions and human perception combine, sustaining legends of wandering spirits across the deserted towns. Chapter 80. Chillingham Castle in England reports sightings of blue and white ghosts. Soldiers from the past allegedly roam the halls. Stone walls amplify echoes and create cold spots. Visitors' expectations, informed by history and tales of tragedy, heighten perception, making ordinary environmental cues feels supernatural and solidifying Chillingham Castle's status as one of the country's most haunted sites. Chapter 81. Hoya Forest in Romania, called the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, is known for strange lights and missing time. Dense trees distort sound and light, while magnetic anomalies subtly affect perception. Visitors report shadowy figures and sudden chills. Environmental and psychological factors combine, turning ordinary natural phenomena into terrifying experiences interpreted as paranormal activity. Chapter 82. The Amityville house in New York is infamous for hauntings reported in 1975. Doors slammed, objects moved, and voices were heard. Psychologists suggest that fear, prior knowledge, and media influence heighten perception, causing ordinary events to feel supernatural. The combination of tragic history and expectation makes the house one of the most widely recognized haunted homes. Chapter 83. Dragsholm Castle in Denmark has stories of imprisoned spirits. Guests report cold drafts and ghostly figures. Stone walls and narrow corridors naturally create echoes and temperature fluctuations. Combined with historical tragedies, these factors enhance fear and encourage visitors to interpret ordinary environmental cues as supernatural, sustaining the castle's reputation as one of Denmark's most haunted sites. Chapter 84. Helltown in Ohio is abandoned yet feared for ghost sightings. Overgrown vegetation and wildlife movements produce sudden sounds and visual anomalies. Psychologists explain that unfamiliar and isolated environments heighten alertness, causing ordinary cues to be perceived as paranormal. Combined with local legends, these factors turn the town into a frighteningly haunted location. Chapter 85. The ancient ram in England is tied to witchcraft and hauntings. Guests report fleeting shadows, cold spots, and creaking floors. Timber floors, drafts, and uneven construction create natural environmental cues. Combined with centuries of legends and tragic history, these ordinary phenomena are interpreted as paranormal, making the inn one of England's most famously haunted buildings. Chapter 86. Kowloon walled city in Hong Kong was densely packed and labyrinthine. Residents reported shadowy figures and strange noises. Architects explain that the maze-like construction and narrow alleys distorted sound and vision. Combined with fear and imagination, these ordinary structural effects created legendary ghost stories that persisted even after the city was demolished. Chapter 87. The Monte Cristo homestead in Australia reports moving objects and whispers. Uneven floors and old foundations create vibrations and noise. Psychological studies show that knowledge of past tragedies influences perception. Visitors interpret these ordinary structural effects as paranormal, illustrating how architecture, history, and human cognition combine to produce a deeply haunted experience. Chapter 88. Barry Pomeroy Castle in England features the White Lady. Guests report cold drafts and glimpses of a pale figure. Crumbling walls, dim light, and uneven floors create optical illusions. Historical events of murder and tragedy heighten fear, turning ordinary environmental effects into convincing supernatural experiences, maintaining the castle's reputation as a chillingly haunted site. Chapter 89. The Paris catacombs hold millions of human bones beneath the city. Visitors report hearing whispers and footsteps. Acoustics amplify sounds, while low light produces shifting shadows. Combined with centuries of macabre history, these factors create experiences interpreted as paranormal. The catacombs remain a haunting mix of natural science, history, and human imagination. Chapter 90. Aokigahara Forest in Japan, the Sea of Trees, is known for tragic events. Hikers report fleeting figures, whispers, and chills. Volcanic rock formations create subtle magnetic anomalies, while dense trees distort sound and light. Environmental conditions and human psychology combine, turning ordinary phenomena into ghostly experiences and reinforcing the forest's global reputation as one of the most haunted places. Chapter 91. Leap Castle in Ireland is notorious for its bloody chapel and violent history. Visitors report shadowy figures and strange noises. Hidden chambers, stone corridors, and drafts amplify sounds and create cold spots. Knowledge of the castle's dark past enhances fear, turning ordinary environmental cues into perceived supernatural experiences and maintaining its reputation as one of the most haunted castles. Chapter 92. The Queen Mary ship in California has cabins and decks reported as haunted. Metal corridors amplify noises, while temperature changes produce sudden cold spots. Maritime tragedies and guests' expectations combine, causing ordinary events to feel paranormal. Visitors experience environmental effects as ghostly phenomena, making the ship a globally recognized haunted attraction. Chapter 93. Bangar Fort in India forbids entry after dark due to legends of curses. Sightings of shadows and whispers are common. Wind through the fort's ruins produces eerie sounds, and stone walls create cold drafts. These natural effects, combined with local folklore, make visitors interpret ordinary phenomena as paranormal, reinforcing Bangar's haunting reputation. Chapter 94. The Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana reportedly hosts at least 12 spirits. Guests experience footsteps, apparitions, and cold drafts. Psychologists explain that heightened tension, creaking floors, and dim lighting increase awareness of sensory anomalies. When combined with violent historical events, ordinary environmental cues become interpreted as supernatural, sustaining the plantation's eerie atmosphere. Chapter 95. Edinburgh Castle features phantom pipers and headless drummers. Visitors report sudden chills and mysterious sounds. Low-frequency vibrations, or infrasound, can cause unease and hallucinations. Combined with centuries of history and tragic events, these subtle environmental cues are perceived as ghostly phenomena, illustrating how science and legend interact to create a chilling experience. Chapter 96. Changi Hospital in Singapore is abandoned yet feared. Visitors report apparitions, screams, and sudden chills. Drafts, open windows, and echoes in old structures create unusual sensations. The hospital's dark history amplifies fear, causing ordinary environmental effects to be interpreted as paranormal, demonstrating how architecture and psychology combine to create haunting experiences. Chapter 97. The Ridges in Ohio, a former asylum, reports ghost sightings. Narrow hallways, low lighting, and decaying walls amplify noises and cold drafts. Awareness of the asylum's tragic history primes the mind to interpret ordinary sensory cues as paranormal. Environmental conditions and psychological expectation work together to make the asylum feel genuinely haunted. Chapter 98. Humberstone and Santa Laura in Chile, abandoned mining towns, are filled with ghost stories. Wind, shifting sands, and sunlight through ruins produce strange shadows and sounds. When paired with tragic history, these ordinary phenomena are interpreted as paranormal. Human perception, combined with environmental effects, sustains legends of wandering spirits among the deserted towns. Chapter 99. Chillingham Castle in England is home to blue and white ghost sightings. Soldiers from past centuries are said to roam the halls. Stone walls amplify echoes and create cold spots. Visitors' expectations, informed by history and tragic events, enhance perception, making ordinary environmental cues feel supernatural and cementing Chillingham's haunted reputation. Chapter 100. Hoya Forest in Romania, the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, reports strange lights, shadows, and sudden chills. Dense trees distort sound and light, while magnetic anomalies subtly affect perception. Human imagination, combined with environmental conditions and a history of eerie events, turns ordinary natural phenomena into terrifying experiences, making the forest one of the world's most mysterious haunted locations. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world's most haunted places. These stories blend history, environment, and human perception, showing how ordinary events can feel supernatural. If you enjoyed exploring these chilling facts, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more eerie stories and fascinating discoveries.